This is Bob. On the outside, he appears to be a relatively healthy and happy male. But on the inside, he is very unhealthy and sad. In fact, he has poor bone density, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and tooth decay. And that's not even all. He also has an elevated risk for cardiovascular disease, an elevated risk for cancer, depression, the most unhealthy gut in the world, severe nutrition deficiency, chronic fatigue, and extremely poor cognitive functioning. Why? Because this is what Bob eats on a daily basis. Burgers, fries, milkshakes, cookies, cakes, and hot dogs, processed foods that are high in saturated fat, sodium content, and calories, and low in actual nutritional value. Basically, Bob follows a Western diet, which is a really bad diet. Bob is also a student in college with no money, no time, and he doesn't really think that being healthy is worth the time and the effort. Now, this is Bob 50 years later. He is chronically obese, cranky, pissed, and mad all the time. He has terrible memory and dementia, coronary heart disease, which is a form of cardiovascular disease, stomach cancer from all the junk he's made his stomach process in his earlier years, osteoporosis, and a very weak immune system. He tries to eat healthy now, but it's too late. The effects of his poor diet in his earlier years are irreversible, and the couple of bucks he saved in college eating fast food, plus much more money, has all gone to pay for his medical expenses, which are insanely expensive considering how many health conditions he has. On the other hand, this is Dan. Just like Bob, Dan is also a college student who has no money and no time. He, however, values his health and understands how important it is to eat a healthy diet for both physical and psychological health. However, unlike Bob, he eats a lot of fruits and vegetables, at least 5 servings a day. Throughout the week, he eats a lot of bananas, strawberries, apples, grapes, blueberries, oranges, broccoli, carrots, bell peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, and cauliflower, just to name a few of the many colorful and healthy foods he eats. These foods are good because they contain a lot of fiber, which is good for digestion, protein, which is important for bones and muscles, vitamins, which are important for growth and development, folic acid, which is important for the production of blood, calcium, which is important for bone density, antioxidants, which are important for preventing cell damage, and omega-3, which help lower the risk of heart disease, depression, dementia, and arthritis. He also eats fish and poultry as opposed to red meat, which has more cholesterol and saturated fat, as an additional source of protein. Lastly, he eats a lot of whole grain bread and oatmeal for those healthy carbohydrates. 50 years later, Dan is still happy, healthy, he has no chronic diseases, he has a healthy heart, a healthy mind, and a healthy body. Don't be like Bob, be like Dan. 50 years later, Dan's still running around, swimming in lakes, hiking cliffs, and living life to the fullest. Eat healthy now, take care of your body, eat more fruits and vegetables, and ultimately be happier.
Hi, my name is Lucia Wang, and I'm a student at the University of Arizona who is really interested in the relationship between food and health. So obviously, it's not this either-or situation that I kind of showed in my public service announcement where you either eat healthy foods and you never get any chronic diseases for the rest of your life, or you eat unhealthy foods and you get all the chronic diseases ever. The point of this video was to emphasize that the foods we eat have long-term effects on our bodies. So like the foods we're eating now in college right now, even though the symptoms don't show, they will eventually catch up to us as we age, especially if they're unhealthy foods. So studies have consistently linked diets high in processed foods and refined sugars and low in fruits and vegetables with higher risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, respiratory disease, and dementia. And then that's not the main purpose of this video or the public service announcement that was just shown. The purpose of that was to promote my new book called Eating Healthy in College is Not an Oxymoron. Check out the covers right here and the back cover. Look at this delicious food that is healthy also. So yeah, I'm trying to say that you don't have to eat ramen, mac and cheese, pizza, and potato chips every day just because you're in college and you don't have money. Yes, college is infamous for being a time of poor health, stress, and way too much junk food. And it's easy to give in to excuses like, oh, I'll start my diet tomorrow, or oh, I'll just eat one cookie, or oh, I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna treat myself because I've worked so hard and I've earned it. And it's really easy to make them sound like valid excuses as well, even though they obviously aren't. So one of the more important chapters in my book that I really wanted to focus on in this video and talk about here was the chapter titled Food and Mood. So we all know the physical effects of food. This chapter wanted to focus on the psychological effects of food. So specifically the effects of nutrition on depression. Depression is actually the most common health problem for college students according to the National Health Institute. And then the field that investigates the relationship between food and mood or diet and depression is called nutritional psychiatry. And it's based on the idea that the types of foods we eat directly affect the structure and function of our brain, which directly affect cognition and mood, which makes sense. So, for example, diets high in refined sugars are directly related to impaired brain functioning and worsening of mental disorders such as depression. So they provide this temporary feeling of extreme happiness and stimulate the release of dopamine neurotransmitters, which regulate the brain's reward center. And so it makes us feel really happy for like a few hours. But then we crash afterwards, and then in the long run, we become more lethargic and depressed, and we have no energy, and we're just sad and cranky. Another important neurotransmitter that regulates mood is serotonin, which actually helps to elevate our mood. So serotonin is synthesized in the brain from tryptophan, which is an amino acid that we can only get from eating foods that contain tryptophan. So that includes seafood, fruits, and vegetables. And if we don't consume enough tryptophan, then our brain doesn't have enough resources to produce more serotonin, and so then that makes us more depressed, as serotonin is associated with an elevated mood. So consumption of protein can actually interfere with the synthesis of serotonin because protein is made of amino acids, and tryptophan is an amino acid, so they will actually compete with the pathways that tryptophan uses to enter the brain, causing less tryptophan to enter the brain, and so causing the production of synthesis to be like less production of serotonin. So protein causes less production of serotonin. On the other hand, consumption of carbohydrates can like absorb the amino acids, and so that can clear up amino acids that can allow more tryptophan to enter the brain, which can actually cause more serotonin to be produced as a result of that. So carbohydrates can help elevate our mood by increasing the production of serotonin by causing more tryptophan to be able to enter the brain. So this is like a biological explanation for how the foods we eat directly affect our mood. And then the last nutrient I wanted to discuss in this presentation is the omega-3 fatty acid, which can also elevate mood through a biological process. Our brain is made up of fatty acids. I think it's like 20% fatty acids, and omega-3 is also a fatty acid, so it helps like make the signaling between brain cells smoother and faster, which is better for overall cognitive functioning. And so it's still unclear specifically how omega-3 does that. Like we know it's because they are all like fatty acids, so they all work together, but it's unclear specifically how that happens. But omega-3 has been consistently shown to be one of the largest potential associations of a nutrient with depression, according to this guy named Dr. Joseph Hibbelin, who is a psychiatrist at the National Institute of Health. At the very end of the chapter, I promote the Mediterranean diet as the most feasible and tangible way to improve physical and mental functioning. So this diet limits the consumption of processed foods and refined sugars, which is good for making people less depressed, and promotes the consumption of fruits and vegetables and healthy carbohydrates, which all have positive effects on mood through various nutrients and neurotransmitters. And then I wanted to end my presentation by talking about how talking about health in general. There are so many studies on the internet that have so much contradictory information about how different nutrients affect our physical and psychological health. Like there's so much contradictory information. It's hard to discern what is actually legitimate and what, like how specific nutrients actually affect our bodies. But the general idea behind all of like the research done on nutrition is to eat more fruits and vegetables and to exercise regularly. That's better for heart health, it's better for mental clarity, it's better physically and psychologically. And to exercise regularly. So next time if you're craving something sweet that's unhealthy, like ice cream or candy or cookies or something like that, then maybe you could try replacing it with something sweet but healthier, like fruit. It doesn't sound like a very appealing choice, but I think you should give it a try and see how it works out, and consider how these foods that you are eating now can affect your health in the long run, and they can improve your mood significantly. But yeah, thank you for listening to my presentation.